And welcome back to Love Your Food. This week we're going back to basics once again. This is a very basic Japanese dashi broth. This is commonly used as a base for miso soup and is very, very simple. It's a fish-based broth that is flavored with dried tuna, actually. So let's start with our ingredients. So we have our tuna. This is katsuobushi, also frequently referred to as bonito shavings. We have some dried kelp. This is typically kombu. And water. I mean, all of the flavorings we need are right here. So we're going to start with the kelp, the kombu. Now, this is a really heavy type of seaweed. You can see it's got a sort of a powdery texture on the outside. That is actually free glutamic acid, which is very similar to monosodium glutamate, and is a very rich, flavorful compound. It adds a meaty, savory kind of flavor, what the Japanese refer to as umami, into the broth. So we want to soak that. We soak this for most of the day, and best if you actually soak it overnight. That's ideal. And then we're going to put it into our pot. So we're just going to soak it at room temperature overnight. And then we're going to get our water and kombu into a pot. And we're going to very, very slowly bring this up to temperature. Very important, you don't want the kombu to boil because it makes it quite bitter and changes the texture. You also get some sort of gooey residue in your soup. You don't really want that. So we're just going to get this to just before a boil. You can see here it's the water is good and hot, and it's not quite boiling yet. That's just about perfect. And again, the slower you can bring this up to temperature, the more flavor extraction you're going to get. So we're just going to give that a little rinse in that hot water. Make sure we've got all the nice flavor compounds out of there. Now we're going to set this aside. It's not going to come back in this recipe, but dried kombu or frozen reconstituted kombu is actually a great fermenter, so we'll show you how to use that in a future video. So now we've got our kombu broth. We're going to add our katsuobushi. Now this is, again, sometimes referred to as bonito shavings. It is a dried, typically tuna, and it's just carved into shavings, and this is what we're using to flavor our broth. So once again, we're just going to add this in here. It should mostly sink in by itself. You don't need to really stir it up. You don't want to break up these pieces too much. You want to keep them sort of whole as much as possible. And we're just going to let that steep. Again, you want this to come up to temperature really, really slowly, and you don't want it to hit a rolling boil. We're just going to very gently get this up to temperature. So we're almost done here. You know when it's done when all of the shavings have sunk to the bottom, and there's no more floating at the top. So this is just about finished right here. So what we're going to do now is we are going to turn off the heat and let that sit for about 10 minutes. You can see here it has been sitting. We're going to take that off the element, and now we're going to strain it. We have a reasonably fine strainer here. If you want to get every last little speck of that the shavings out, you can use cheesecloth. You can use a really, really fine strainer. We're fine with the occasional little tiny speck, but mostly this is going to come out as a very, very nice clear broth. It's got that really amazing sort of seafoody aroma, and absolutely delicious. Next week we're actually going to show you how to use this in miso soup, and we're going to make that recipe next week. But that's it. That's the whole thing for dashi broth. Really beautiful, rich seafood. It's got that aroma of the sea to it. It's with the kelp and the bonito shavings. Really fantastic. Absolutely delicious. Will make your kitchen smell amazing, I promise. If you like this recipe, please do like and subscribe. And if you have any recipes you'd like to see Chef Caleb try on the channel, please let us know in the comments below. And remember to love your food.